Notice is hereby given that the Town of Shandaken Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing pursuant to Section 274-B of the state law and as prescribed by the District Schedule of Area and Bulk Regulations of the Shandaken Town Code for the purpose of hearing the following applicant. Regarding an application for area variance submitted by Vivian Welton for a parcel located at 313 Plank Road, Mount Tremper, New York, 12457, indicated as SBL number 14.13-2-26, located in a residential 1.5 acre zoning district. The applicant is seeking two area variances. The first area variance in relief of 116-12, existing lots of record in order to have an accessory dwelling on a pre-existing non-conforming lot. The second in relief of 116-17, distance between principal buildings on same lot as the distance between the two structures is less than the height of the taller of the two structures. The public hearing is scheduled for October 19th, 2022 at 6:45 p.m. at the Shandaken Town Hall, 7209 Route 28, Shandaken, New York. Anyone who wishes to make comment regarding the application may do so during the public hearing. If you are unable to attend, you can send any comments you would like read during the meeting to shandakenbldg@gmail.com or P.O. Box 134, Shandaken, New York 12480. All such comments must be received no later than October 19th, 2022 at 3 p.m.
Okay, so we need a clarification. As of the last meeting, I was under the impression this was two variances. One is the area variance for the distance between the two structures, and the second was a use variance. Is that incorrect?
This isn't an issue of use. It's an issue of, it's an area variance. They're both area variances. Because the code specifically says that you can't have two habitable dwellings on a pre-existing non-conforming lot.
Right.
It's a variance in relief of that, which to my knowledge is an area variance, not a use variance.
Okay. Frankly, I was looking at this as a use variance, but thank you for that clarification. Okay, so there were two emails submitted in reference to the public hearing. One is from the Institute for Human Development, Real Life Solutions for Real Life Problems. Bill Cologrand, 319 Plank Road, who says, hello, I am writing in support of Vivian Walton's application for an area variance at 313 Plank Road in Mount Tremper. In the years we have been neighbors, I have found Vivian to be friendly, generous, and pleasant. The presence of a guest house on her property has done nothing to alter that opinion. She is a thoughtful woman and very aware of any impact events on her property that may have upon her neighbors. She should be granted the variance she is requesting. Sincerely, yours, Bill Cologrand, 319 Plank Road. Is that your immediate neighbor? Mm-hmm. Okay, the other one is from Marie Millar, regarding an application for area variance submitted by Vivian Walton for parcel located at 313 Plank Road, indicated as SBL number 14.13-2-26. Ms. Walton's property located in a residential 1.5 acre zoning district. The applicant is seeking two area variances. The first area variance in relief of Reg 116-12B, existing lots of record, in order to have an accessory dwelling on a pre-existing non-conforming lot. The second in relief of Reg 116-17, distance between principal buildings on the same lot, as the distance between the two structures is less than the height of the taller of the two structures. I want to share my concerns about this request for a variance. I am not an abutting neighbor, but a concerned citizen of Shandaken. Excuse me. As the town board has chosen to allow residents of Shandaken to have unlimited short-term rentals, meaning hosts that reside on the property they are renting. I am worried about just this very outcome, that very undersized, pre-existing, non-conforming lots will be coming before you for variance. This particular lot is tiny. It already has two dwellings. It has a creek year-round running right through it. Perhaps you have a site plan, but it's hard to imagine how you could squeeze one more thing onto that lot. Surely it would also require a density variance. Do we know the size of septic system? ? The creek flows directly into the opus. It appears the driveway is shared with the neighbor and the parking area is quite full. Variances are often given for a variety of reasons, but this seems to simply fly in the face of our zoning code. Formerly, variances are given to properties that have built-in limitations that can't be changed, not just because someone wants to overload a lot that is a fraction of the area required in the zoning code. I'm very concerned about the legal precedence of allowing this level of build-out. I'm grateful to be able to share my concerns. I hope you will consider them. Thank you. Marie Millar of Mount Tramper. That's public input.
If I may, I believe Ms. Millar is under the mistaken impression that the applicant wants to put a third structure.
Right.
On the lot, that's not the case.
Right.
It's an existing second structure, just
Okay.
for clarity.
All right.
And the other thing, may I say something?
Sure.
The driveway is not shared with the neighbors, it's a large driveway. The neighbors have a shared driveway on the other side of the neighbor's property. So
Okay.
there's no parking issue with the neighbors abutting.
Okay. We haven't heard of any parking issues coming up. Any questions?
The accessory structure, do you know when that was built?
It was built before I purchased the property in 1998. It was being used as an artist studio and a professional office. So I basically improved it so that it's habitable. I was intending to be renting, or well, my daughter needed a place to come home to because she lived in Seattle and she was losing her living situation. So I made it livable for her, basically. And that was my original intention. The short-term rental came later when it turned out she didn't need to move back.
So you've been short-term rental?
I've been renting it since 2018 for short-term rental, but she moved, I think I basically fixed it up for her in 2015.
And you fix it up by putting a bathroom and,
Putting a bathroom and then some kitchen facilities.
was that filed at all, or?
It was confused with the rebuild that I had of the main house, which started in, I think, 2000. Grace, do you remember any dates on this? I'm hazy on the dates. It was around 2003 that I started rebuilding the house. And then it took 10 years to do the whole rebuild. The cottage was in very bad condition, so it had to be torn down. So I rebuilt the main house over 10 years. And during that time, I intended to rebuild the artist studio, which was basically in the same position where it is now. But I didn't apply for a separate building permit for that.
You put additions on that as well.
Well, that's what I did. It was an existing artist studio.
That's the question I was gonna ask.
I just
Was
put a
it
bathroom
enlarged?
addition, like what is it, a 7 by 9, I think.
It's this structure here,
They're
right?
dated at the bottom.
2008.
Through
So-
2018, there's pictures through 2018.
Okay. So does that structure currently have a certificate of occupancy?
No, that was the reason why I came in front of the, I guess, it was a mix-up with my original certificate of occupancy for the main house, which was lost. When, I guess, this was before you were involved. But Howie was looking through the files, he saw I didn't have a certificate of occupancy. I had a certificate of occupancy. He said, well, okay, I have to come and inspect the wood stove to make sure it's safe. So he did that, but in the process, he noticed that I also had the accessory structure. And long story short, he said I couldn't give me a certificate of compliance for that, although he would based on the structure itself because of the undersized lot and the fact that there was a property line going through the bathroom addition, which has since been eliminated.
Okay, that was eliminated when you remove the property line from that adjacent lot.
Yeah, because I
So-
came from the zoning board about that a couple of years ago.
Okay, so zoning laws, so you're in a 1.5 acre district, and you need 1.5 acres for a second dwelling unit, and you have 0.87 acres? How many acres?
It's a little under a half an acre.
Okay.
Under a half an
0.48,
acre.
I think.
Wasn't it
0.49.
2 lots?
It was 2 lots, yeah, one lot is very small. On the strip of land between the accessory dwelling and the neighbor's property line. It's really about
So it's an
15
addition.
feet wide.
And where does the accessory dwelling sit in relationship to where the two lots were or are?
It was originally built right on that strip of land with one side right on the line, and then the bathroom addition was built actually on the main, crossing over the property line on the main house side.
Is there a kitchen and a bathroom and
Yeah.
electricity?
It's not a separate kitchen, it's just a kitchenette built into one hall. There always was electricity and heat.
If we're allowing a second dwelling unit on undersized property, is there not a use variance required for that?
Use in what sense?
It-
You mean,
For the use?
change of use?
To change the use to
No,
what?
to create a second dwelling unit on an undersized lot.
To create a second dwelling unit at all requires a special use permit with the planning board.
Okay.
The planning board cannot grant that special use permit unless this variance is granted.
Okay.
So it's a permitted use if this permit is granted, if this variance is granted.
Okay, which is the area variance.
Correct.
Okay, I didn't have much of a problem with the area issue, but the use issue is what I had a problem with. So, okay, so we grant an area variance, and that kicks it back to
This
the
is-
planning board?
I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah,
if you all
please.
wanna discuss the application, it's probably better done during the regular meeting. So if the public hearing's done, if there's no more comment.
No, we have.
Well-
There you go.
Yeah.
I said
Oh,
yes, there's no more comment.
So,
There aren't more.
I have a question before that. When you, it seems like you put quite a bit of work and the addition seems quite large on the shed or artist studio, whatever it was. Did you apply for permits to reconstruct or add onto that building?
Not at that time, no. I was in the middle of actually rebuilding the entire main house. So it didn't occur to me that I needed a special permit for that. I know that
Okay.
was wrong, but I didn't know
Yeah.
at the time.
All right. Please,
so, no,
let's go.
so she wants to have two residences on less than a half an acre. So tomorrow I can come in and I can apply for the same thing. I have 0.85 acres, so I have more property than her. So is this gonna be town-wide?
Well, first of all, you can apply for anything you want. That doesn't mean that it will be granted. The issue, as you can clearly see, is that if we grant this variance, we are setting precedent.
That's correct.
So,
And are you concerned about that legally at all? I mean,
well,
that-
yes, we are. I hasten to point, as I understand it from my beginning on this board, which was, I think, 8 years ago, we are not legally obligated to rule on precedent. We're legally obligated to rule on a per-case basis. However, the precedent issue is a compelling legal argument in court. So, you know, I never did know your name. What is your name? What's your name?
I know who we're talking to. You don't know my name?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
My name is Tina Rice.
Okay.
I've lived here 35 years.
I know, we've seen you often, thank you for that introduction. Yeah, so that is a concern that has been, well, okay, first of all, any other comments about,
Yeah. Yeah, I hope you guys are hearing what I'm hearing, is that you have somebody who has a property that's undersized, had two lots that were undersized. Combined the lots because a building, a shed that was there, and it turns out now I'm hearing was demoed at one point and then rebuilt. Shed art studio, whatever it was named. And then was expanded upon to be habitable, and by her own words, a
Right.
habitable structure, a house.
right,
Even the one neighbor said, it's a guest house. So by the code, flat out, the enumeration districts, the bulk regs, are all based on having a lot of record. 1.5 acres is the zoning that she's lived in.
right,
1.5 should be the base lot. Understand, these lots were cut off years ago, we just match and do what we do.
right.
But to have two houses on the same lot, she's been renting, I mean, the stories can come whatever, but there was no permit issue. It wasn't allowed by the town. she wouldn't have been allowed to have the second habitable structure on the property in the first place. So I'll just read from the zoning district, from the zoning regs. Establishment of zoning districts. Number 3, the residential R15 district is a moderate density residential district which generally encompasses the town's less environmentally constrained acreage, lies in the vicinity of the town's principal hamlet areas, and is readily accessible to permanent residents. General, institutional, and certain limited commercial uses are authorized by a special use permit. This district permits an increase in density for cluster residential development serviced by central water or central sewer. Okay, that's the district. There is no municipal water or sewer there. It's made to be R1.5 to have a sizable lot. It's an undersized lot to begin with, where you're distributed. Now you go to 116.9G, and within any residential district, except as otherwise specifically provided by this chapter in section 116.32, with respect to, again, residential cluster development,
Right.
or in 116.40W with respect to senior citizen or elderly housing, not more than one principal residence shall be erected on any premises unless each residence is so located that it would conform to all area and bulk regulations of the district in which it is located, if a separate lot were created for each residence. So meaning that if I had a 3-acre lot in R1.5, yes, I can have 2 houses on my lot, but the idea being, if they did decide to subdivide, you had to have the availability of the lot to subdivide to be a lot of record and be accessible as well. It can't just be a lot of record islandized. So you have a big quandary here. You have a lot of non-conformance, you have a habitable structure that's been built without permits, and she's been operating it and running a commercial business essentially out of it with the SDRs. So,
So Vivian, it sounds like you're illegal at this point. Do you have a response to that?
Yeah, well, the one thing I would correct about what Roberts just said is that I did not demo the existing structure. I just added to it.
Okay.
And put appliances in, which I'm willing to take out the stove to make it now a non-habitable
you said the shed.
residence.
She said the shed, I'm sorry. She said the shed was in shambles and she had to take it down. and
No,
rebuild
no,
it.
that was the main house, the main house was a cottage, which the foundation was rotten.
Oh.
So that's what I was in the middle of redoing from
Okay.
2003 to 2015, I think, or whenever it is I got the certificate of occupancy, then I continued my project of rebuilding everything so that it was livable, with the idea that my daughter would come and live with me in that separate dwelling. Now, I've since realized that if I have a kitchen, then it's actually an accessory dwelling unit. But without a kitchen, it could be a livable place for a family member. So that's what I had in mind, but then I just sort of found a stove that was on sale and put it in. And I'm willing to take it out if necessary to make it a non-habitable dwelling.
All right, so if you move the kitchen, it becomes a cottage.
That's the cottage.
Cottage.
This is what was the problem at the beginning of the STR discussions, if you remember.
Yeah.
We were talking about, there's houses out there, and it may not, to Rita's own defense, like, it may not be her fault. You have people that have purchased places where they've done renovations in the garages and made them into apartments and stuff. They're gonna be coming before you now with these STRs, because they haven't had COs before. And that's why they didn't have a CO, because they kind of did it on the side. Maybe they were giving a friend a hand and letting them stay there. There's a lot of stories. And it's not to damn anybody, but Grace can tell you the number of people that call up to get a CO for their properties. And sometimes they're buying cash. They don't care. They may not have the CO for the second building. They know they got an apartment, and they're being sold that it could be an STR property. And they think everything's legit. They get a CO for the main house, they don't get one for the second one, and then you just start making the addition. And that's when the building department goes, whoa, like she said, how we came upon this thing was like, hey, you have a second residence? Wow, we need to know that.
So I just wanted to say something about the density of that immediate area. My property is just under half an acre. My immediate neighbor's property, not the one on that he's renting out, and which is right on the property. But he's grandfathered in because it was prior to the zoning laws being in effect.
Mhm.
Then next to him is another lot that's even smaller with a main house on it. And, I mean, it's like half the size of my lot. So it already is a cluster of houses where we all coexist happily.
Well, that's not the justification of making it more clustered.
But it already was in other words, a functioning living space, but not an actually livable living space that was being used for a professional office and an art studio.
Did you get a survey to survey the lot when you combined the lots?
They didn't
And is that
require it.
complete
They
with the
didn't require it
county?
Because it's eliminating the lot.
Well, yeah, you did a lot line
If I
adjustment.
were
Is
to-
that completed with the county?
Yes, it is.
And do you have that survey?
I received the paperwork back. I have the paperwork on the lot elimination.
You have a survey though of the
They
property?
didn't
with
require
the-
a survey for a lot elimination.
Okay, before we continue this discussion, is there any other comment on the public hearing from anybody else?
I'd just like to add again, gentlemen, God bless you. I think you're gonna have a few of these coming before you, and it's a difficult decision to be made, but it is really heavy for the town.
Okay, we'll discuss that at the opening of the actual meeting. So first of all, I make a motion that we close the public hearing. May I have a second?
Second motion.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, I make a motion, we open the regular meeting. May I have a motion?
Second motion.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, so, call to order for the regular monthly zoning board meeting. So, continue. What was the question you were about to ask?
On the lot, where the accessory structure is, what is the setback to the property line?
It's the original required setback to the property line of the next door neighbor.
It's 10
Whatever,
feet?
I know it was measured and it was within it was outside the setback requirement. I don't know if it's 15 feet, something like that.
The setback requirement for a dwelling or for a guest cottage? A guest cottage is an accessory structure, that's a 10-foot setback, but an accessory dwelling is another home that requires normal setbacks
I
for
think
a house. Which in a
I think it's
residential 1.5
15
is,
feet.
someone's got a book out, but I think it's 25 feet on the side.
Yes, it's
And that would be set further to the front line than the original structure.
It's not, it's behind. No, I don't know exactly how many feet it is. I know
Is there an issue with the parking?
no, I have a very large driveway.
Okay.
I think that Maureen, when she wrote the letter, said that she thought that I was sharing the driveway with the neighbor, which is not the case.
Okay. How did you handle the septic issue when you created this dwelling?
The bathroom that I added onto the office was tied into the original. It's a
Tied in.
1,000-gallon septic tank,
Tied in
and
the
I
original.
only have one bedroom in the main house.
Okay, all right. I mean, it's easy for us to give an area variance in the right circumstances, but as Rob so eloquently pointed out, we are setting a precedent here that has the potential to change the character of the town. Could you tell us how many requests you have been fielding for a second dwelling on an undersized lot?
So I was appointed zoning enforcement officer in March, I think, of this year. So I've had 3 people come to me,
Okay,
specifically wanting accessory dwellings, and 2 of those were on undersized lots, and I told them they couldn't have them on undersized lots. I inform people always that they can, of course, apply for a variance with this board, it's their right to do so. The burden on the applicant when you apply for a variance is that they have to prove that the hardship's not self-created. And often, and it's my understanding that simply wanting to do something is a self-created hardship. So those people do not approach this board or the planning board.
okay. Well, first of all, I don't see a formal application
Yeah, I
for
haven't seen any.
this variance.
But
So once again,
they have it? Because I did submit one.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
positive.
not either. I would think that-
it's not in our file. It's not in our file.
It's a matter of, this was submitted, 2 years ago at this point? And also, I believe Olivia had her hands on the original file, but this past week, the town had them pull up the old carpets upstairs, and the guys that did the work have shuffled things about a little bit. She's having a hard time getting her hand on that file. They made a bit of a mess upstairs.
Didn't the original application go to the planning board?
The application with a special use permit goes to the board, this application for variance comes to
Well, I think 2 years ago, this was in front of the planning board.
Yeah, and it stopped. For staffing upstairs has always been a bit of an issue, and then COVID and.
And the code specifically spells out that in a non-conforming lot, when you combine two non-conforming lots in the way this was done, that you can only have one dwelling on that lot.
We know that, and that's what
Yeah.
they're trying to mitigate. They want
And I
Variance,
think, I
not
think
that.
Howie McGowan went through this at that planning board meeting. He was pretty specific about non-conforming lots, and even with a lot line adjustment, that it would be almost impossible to approve another dwelling on that lot for habitation, by you.
There was no indication of the area variance needed on this application. So as I understand it, one area variance is for the distance from the second structure to the primary structure, which has to be 10 feet. You only have 9 feet. I don't have a problem with that. But what is the variance you're asking for the structure to the lot line?
No, it's to have an accessory dwelling unit on
to
a
have it.
undersized lot.
Yeah, that sounded like a use permit to me. So, okay. But what are the figures? What is the distance of the variance you're asking for? We don't have that here.
The height of the second structure is, I believe, 12.5 feet,
It's on this.
Yeah.
and the two structures are 9 feet away from one another, so they need a variance of 3.5 feet. For the distance between the two structures.
I'm sorry, say that again.
The height of the main house is 12.5 feet. The distance between the two structures is 9 feet.
Right.
We need a 3.5-foot variance
Okay.
for that distance between the two principal dwellings in the same lot.
And what were the figures for the second variance?
The second variance is a second dwelling on a pre-existing non-conforming lot. The book specifically says you cannot have it.
Right.
Yeah.
So the only way that the planning board can approve a special use permit for an accessory dwelling is if she receives a variance from that section of the book.
That sounds like a use variance to me. Does it not?
You can call it a use variance if you'd like.
What?
I don't-
That makes
I
a
don't
big
know.
difference, because with a use variance, we cannot.
What's the use then? If we're calling this a change of use, it's not a use variance, it's an area variance.
Well, it's a
To my
change,
knowledge.
it's a change of use from
From-
an accessory building to a
A
dwelling.
change in use is something that's
That could
applied
be,
for.
it says in this application, in a pre-existing structure. That structure maybe was pre-existing, but it was expanded and extended. So the structure now is not what was pre-existing.
Right, so
Structure
what
now
she's looking, the
is-
issue of use is that she's using a structure as a home that she didn't get permission to do.
That's not
to
the only,
do.
that's not the only issue. The other issue is a second dwelling unit on an
Exactly,
undersized
that's
lot.
where, when I say the only way that you can come into compliance with our law and keep the structure as it sits, is if you go to the planning board and obtain a special use permit, so they can use that the way you want to. That board cannot approve a special use permit unless this one gives her a variance and relief of having those two structures on an undersized lot. In my opinion, that's an area variance. The issue of use is before the planning board.
Yeah.
Okay. The issue about a use variance is we cannot grant a use variance if the reason for the request is a self-induced hardship. And I think, Olivia, I think we have a self-induced hardship here. You created the structure without a permit, without a C of O, and too close to your other property, and a second habitable dwelling on an undersized lot. So if we allow that variance, what happens? We open up the,
Pandora's box, and that's one of the issues that we discussed during the SDR committee meetings. And this only came to light because of the SDR license. If it wasn't for the SDR license, this would not have, nobody would know about any of these non-conforming dwellings that are on these non-conforming lots. So this is one of the issues that have to be straightened out through the zoning board and the appeals board and the planning board. So
So-
this is gonna be an ongoing thing. If we agree to this dwelling on a non-conforming lot, we're gonna have one after the other applicants, and how do you say to one applicant you can and another applicant you can't? You know, based on their criteria and whether they're self-created hardships or not.
So even if we were to allow the area variance, that's not the end of the story. You then need to go in front of the planning board.
Yes, I understand that, yes.
Okay.
Can I make this? You gentlemen do have an attorney you can conference with, if you'd like to discuss further with them. You don't have to close the public hearing, you can keep the public hearing open without denying this application, but you can go to conference with your attorney and come back next month or 3 weeks ago.
So we could temporarily table the
If
application.
you're not ready to make a decision tonight, or if you're ready, I see you guys like kind of treading lightly here.
Well, I don't think it's that light. I think we're looking at it in a serious manner, and something that's affecting, these non-conforming lots in Shandaken, and all of Shandaken. So, I don't think we're treading lightly,
Hold on, it's a big issue.
and if we table this, where are we actually going with it? All we're doing is prolonging, a vote that needs to be taken, one way or the other.
If you guys are ready to make a decision, go ahead, I just felt like
I don't know, I actually don't know what anybody else thinks, but
I've always said, we're not in the business of preventing people from doing stuff. We're in the business of enabling people to do stuff. But I'm highly concerned about the issue of the precedent. And if, I understand you've invested in this property, you've proved it up. It's habitable, but if we bend the rules a little bit in this case and allow us a second dwelling structure on an undersized lot, then as Rob so eloquently points out, we are opening a Pandora's box, especially seeing the explosive growth of short-term rental in this community. How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, I'm not comfortable with the size of the property and 2 dwellings on the property. I think that's, it's under a half an acre. Forget about the precedent, I'm just, I think that's just way too small.
What's your feeling?
I hear what you're saying. We're worried about the precedent. That can't be an issue.
Can I say something?
Sure.
When I originally came in front of you guys, I think it was 2 years ago before COVID stopped everything, I came with a presentation and along with Howie, and Howie had suggested that instead of asking for a habitable accessory dwelling, that I just say, okay, I'm going to remove the kitchen facilities, take the stove out, take the oven out, and then it will not be considered an accessory dwelling, but an accessory structure. And so, Mark, you said, well, what do you really want? I said, well, I really want a place that my daughter can come and live in. So you said, okay, well, let's come back and, discuss it. I think you wanted to have a hearing or something, or, and then there was that lot line issue that complicated everything.
Mhm.
But when it was about the use variance or area variance, and I wasn't sure at that point which it was, that's what you said, well, tell me what you really are looking to do. And
Mhm.
that's what I said, I was looking to have an accessory dwelling that my daughter could live in.
Yeah.
And that's where it stood.
Mhm.
But I'm willing to go back to, in fact, it might work out as a compromise for everybody.
Right.
To just go back and not make it a livable, habitable dwelling, but just someplace I can use for guests.
Bulk accessory.
Without a long-term, somebody living there.
Okay. Have you applied for the short-term rental license?
Yes, yes.
Does anybody here want to conference with our attorney?
I don't.
Well, it wouldn't hurt. I mean, I have a gut feeling about this, but, I don't know if everybody's on the fence and they feel that would be advantageous, but.
I'm not on the fence. I'm concerned about setting the precedent.
Right.
But again, I'm asking the question, what is the second variance from the second living structure to the lot line that she's asking for?
There's no variance to the lot line that's being requested
No, not the variance to the lot line, variance from the distance from
between the two
Main
structures.
variance.
That's a 3.5-foot variance that she needs for the distance between the structures.
But-
Which, just, if the application before the planning board is gonna change from accessory dwelling to guest cottage, the only variance required by this board is the variance for the distance between the structures. A guest cottage is considered an accessory structure, not a habitable dwelling.
So then we don't have to give her a variance for that.
She still needs a
She
special
needs a
use
variance.
permit for a guest cottage.
What she gets from the planning board, not from our board.
Correct.
Is
Okay.
she allowed a second habitable structure on the lot?
Yeah, I thought that was
To my
a,
knowledge, a guest cottage is considered by our code an accessory structure, which is a decision that's gonna have to be discussed with planning board members, but that's the way it reads. An accessory structure doesn't require those 25-foot setbacks, just 10-foot setbacks. And accessory structures, you're allowed 3 accessory structures, assuming you're not going over your density, even on an undersized lot.
okay. So again, aside from the distance between the two buildings, which frankly, I don't have a problem with granting that.
Right.
But the second variance for the area variance, what are the figures? How much of a variance is she asking for? We don't have that here.
It's a variance in relief of a section of the law,
Say again?
of the code. It's a variance in relief of a piece of the code. It's not
not
a
a distance
specific
issue.
distance or, yeah, it's, the code itself is saying this isn't allowed. This board has to say, okay, you can, or you cannot.
That's not an area variance, that's a,
It's the heading of this.
okay.
Does it matter?
Huh?
Does it matter whether it's user or area in your decision?
Not in my decision, but technically, there is a much higher bar for the granting of the use variance, because that has a potential to change the character of the town. Okay, so, where are we at? Any other questions?
No.
No.
So do we vote on both variances? Is that how that works?
Well, if
Separately?
we can't get the second variance to alter the code, then the first variance is irrelevant,
You'd still need the first variance for a guest cottage.
right?
I would, if this board feels comfortable doing so, if you want to vote on those applications separately, but that's your decision.
Yeah, I think we should vote on them separately. Okay, so I make a motion that we grant a variance for the distance between the two houses, which needs to be 12 feet, it's now 9 feet, so we grant a variance of 3 feet for the distance between the two structures. Do I have a second for that?
I'll second.
All in favor?
That's a roll call.
Roll call?
Mark Bobby?
Aye.
Karen
In favor.
Monahan?
Aye.
Alan Bauer?
Aye.
Christian Lynch? Henry Williams?
No.
Okay, we have a quorum of 4 people, 3 out of 4 people voted in the affirmative. So that
If you're,
variance,
a no vote needs to, for her minutes, she just needs a reason for her minutes.
a reason? Oh, someone really came up.
It's pretty simple to me. I mean, I'm looking at the code, and the code, as far as I'm concerned, speaks for itself. And in granting the area variance, the distance between the main dwelling and accessory structure, that accessory structure, in my opinion, is still gonna be used as a dwelling. So therefore, my answer is still no,
No,
or no.
it's just for the minutes.
Okay, did you get that down? Okay, thank you, you must be a fast writer. Okay,
Rob has a question.
Sorry, I need to interrupt, but that's only if she changes her application to a guest cottage
Yes.
and changes the structure to be a guest cottage
Yeah.
met by inspection by the town.
so that should be a conditional variance then?
Well, it should be a condition of your approval, if that's what you're intending. If you're intending to give the approval for that variance because she's gonna apply or intends to apply as a guest cottage, you should include that with the variance.
Okay, so,
Otherwise, she's got a straight approval of the variance.
I would like to amend my application as he stated. So you're hearing it from me, I think that's what Rob is saying.
so you're amending the application, how so? Be more
So
specific.
instead of applying for a accessory dwelling unit, a guest cottage, basically. That's
Okay.
what Grace was saying, that there's a difference in the definition, that requirements in the code applying to it.
Still have construction.
It's how they're treating the final application.
Still have.
But then for future applications of this kind, if those future applications were in fact a guest cottage, that would be allowable under the code. So, I don't know, I'm a little bit flummoxed here. I'm leaning toward disallowing the second variance, because of the precedent issue of opening the floodgates for, second dwelling units on undersized structures, which I feel in the long run is going to affect the quality of the town. Do I have any agreement on that?
Yeah, I'll agree to that.
Yep.
So the motion, I believe. A motion to deny the application for variance and relief of that section of the code. A second, and a roll call vote is necessary.
Any other discussion? Okay, I make a motion that we deny the second area variance, based on, violation of the code and, based on, the, density issue of 2 habitable dwellings on an undersized lot. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Roll call.
Oh, sorry.
Mark Bodie?
I guess I'm saying nay. No.
You're saying yes.
What
So
do you
your
say?
motion to deny.
Oh,
You're
motion
saying
denied. Oh, yes, I'm agreeing on the motion denied. Thanks for helping us out here, guys. This is confusing. I'm sorry, Vivian, you know.
How did you vote?
I vote yes, in favor of denying.
Okay, I just, to be clear.
Gary Kugelman?
Yes.
Alan Bella?
Yes.
Christian Lynch? Larry Williams?
Yes.
Okay, motion so denied. Motion carried. Thank you, Tina.
Me? That was Kevin.
Kevin?
Oh, thank you. Vivian, I'm not sure where that leaves you. I mean, I guess if you would change the use to the cottage and then reapply to the planning
Well,
board.
that's what I thought I was doing.
No, this is
By word of mouth,
conversation.
you need, don't you need to,
The application you have before the planning board now for the
Yes.
accessory dwelling cannot be approved. So going forward, the only recourse that I see for you is an application submitted to that board for a guest cottage.
Oh, I
You
thought,
have to
I thought I
remove-
was able to amend it right now at the meeting.
No, this is,
No,
they
you're
don't have
not.
anything to do with that application for.
No, you-
Okay, so I can't just change the application right now?
No, you're gonna submit a new application to me
Oh,
for
okay.
the planning board.
you'll have to apply a formal application. We can't just do this by word of mouth.
Okay, so for me to change the application to a guest cottage, I have to go through it again
With the planning board, not with the board.
with the.
But you would have to file another application, would she not?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have
So-
to apply to the planning board.
The application before the board as it sits cannot be approved. So a new application has to be submitted, and that kitchen's gonna have to be removed if they approve this.
Okay.
Olivia,
The
do you need
planning
that?
board then has the ability to approve it, even without.
Should they choose,
Okay.
yes. They have the ability to review the application.
Mhm.
And
Was
the
on
application
some-
as you submitted should not require any further variances from
Okay.
this board. And then it's for the planning board to set up a public hearing and have a.
The envelope's mine.
And decide whether or not they want to approve that.
I'm sorry this has been so circuitous for you, but.
It's a
you know,
big
we have to
issue.
apply the law.
It's a
We have to
big
apply
issue.
existing law. Any other comments, questions, criticism?
No.
I see the wheels turning there.
No, I just, it is a really important issue. I'm sorry you're the first one here, to test that water, but I think if it came before us with anybody else, I would feel the same way. I think that precedent setting, opens us to legal troubles in the future, possible legal troubles. Maybe, some people would not take it that far, but there are people that we know would. And I don't think that's right for the town to be, have to do that when we already have all these codes in place to prevent that. It's not a simple, fence too close to the road or something. I mean, it's a little bit more impactful on our quality of life, I think. And not necessarily in your property, but in general. And I think that's what we have to look at.
I guess the question is, to what extent can you really take a case by case, like you were saying, Mark, that you would generally want to take things case by case?
I think
Right.
that's our duty.
And that somebody else saying, well, my case is the same, is never really going to be completely true. Each case is different. So I think it makes a difference that it's not a nuisance to the neighbors, that it's not a place where the density would affect traffic, it's not a place where there's parking issues.
All
It's
true.
not a place where, you know, that it's an inconvenience to anybody, basically.
Totally.
And it does improve the economy of the town, I think, you know, that can be said. We were given assurances that that the town would try not to put people out of business with this whole STR licensing process. And,
All true. We're not trying to put you out of business.
right, no, I'm not saying you are, I'm just saying that that's the end
No.
result of it for me.
No, I'm not gonna allow that to go on. That was not the thing that was set up at the beginning, that we weren't gonna shut things down if they were an illegal structure. If it was an illegal, you have an illegal house on a property, we're gonna give a permit to demo a kitchen in a building that wasn't permitted to be there in the first place. So just, this is
Yeah.
a little.
I was the chairman of the SDR committee. We worked hard and long to ensure that we're just not willingly.
That's what I'm saying, that's what I'm saying. So I know that nobody on the committee really wanted to put STR owners out of business.
And
And when the law, the STR was changed at the last minute by Peter DiSclafani,
On board.
and his,
Thank you.
yeah, I mean, that was the last minute that it had to comply with zoning, which I understand, that's the law.
That wasn't last minute. That's,
This parcel has to come into compliance with zoning regardless of STR law.
And-
STR law brought this
Right,
back
right.
into focus.
Right, so he was just pointing that out, basically, by putting that in.
But this has nothing to do with.
And you're
STR.
agreeing not to SDR. I mean, if you're taking out all the facilities, then you can SDR, right?
Well, you can
Yeah,
STR a
sure.
cabin,
Do-
basically, with
Well,
no
I
facilities,
think
and
the
those
S-
people have been getting
The SDR
permits.
committee looked at this over and over and over, and they never, ever wanted to violate the code in the town. SDRs, if they were operating at that time, were in buildings that were already built and were on property that were in code, whether 1.5 or 3 or 5. They were operating in existing buildings that had certificate of compliance as a COs.
Well, I do have a certificate of occupancy for the original structure,
Right.
which was being used as an artist studio. And that was the basis on which I improved it. I thought I was just improving an existing structure. Then I found out, well, okay, putting more facilities in makes it in a different category. So I'm willing to take it back to, not a accessory dwelling. And that was legal at that time, because they did have a certificate option for the dwelling that I purchased.
but then you changed the use.
Then I changed the
So you would
use.
need a
And
new
changed the size.
certificate of occupancy
Right.
if you change the use. Okay.
Well, I changed the use because now I'm actually treating it as an accessory dwelling, which I realize now that's not legal. But if I put it back as a cabin, basically, then it's more like the original structure. It's not like I created it out of nothing. And then if I had not improved it, like there are cabins that are existing that don't even have bathrooms or kitchens. They have basically
Right.
a sawdust toilet and an outdoor shower. But if that cabin was pre-existing, no, I guess they get STR licenses.
But the issue about pre-existing, if you then change the use, then it's no longer pre-existing, it's now a new use for the, subject to our current zoning laws.
Can I clarify? Yeah, again, and a bunch of you guys, I mean, you know this, like, there was a bunch of hunting cabins all over the place, all
Yeah,
over this town.
yeah.
So there's quite a few lots that do have legal habitable structures on multiple, they were divided up. My dad's place is one of them. He's got 2 legal habitable structures on his property, because part of the property was was a cabin business that was subdivided over the years. The other people had 2 houses on their property. So this goes on all over the place, legit, like it pre-existed the code.
Right.
But then the code came in, and you have a number of people that made the improvements, and that's all I'm saying, is that they've done this over time. Whether they bought the building, there was a shed on a small parcel that was too small to have 2 houses. We've now had 2 houses, making money, making profit, and now we want to legalize that house to continue doing that business. We're gonna take out the kitchen. I think that's what it's looking like. And you can do that, I see SDRs that are done without kitchens and stuff, that's fine,
Yeah.
that's what you're promoting, you're not promoting a whole kitchen.
Well, the legality and the permissibility of that would fall to the planning board, not to us. But the other issue is the optics. If we bend the law a little bit to make this possible for you, a planning board member, then what is the optics of that, as Tina points out, for the rest of the town? Hey, you did this for a planning board member, why aren't you doing it for me? You're not gonna do it for me, we're gonna sue you. As a planning board member, how do you feel about those optics?
Well, I mean, I can understand that, but on the other hand, I don't know if that should be used against it either. I think that it should be an even playing field.
It's not
So
used
that it's
against
not-
you.
I mean, in other words, if you think that it would look like favoritism, is that what you're saying, or?
No, I think he just wanted to know how you,
But I think that's
Do
understood.
you feel it looks like favoritism? Do you feel that way? I mean,
No, I'm just trying to understand what you're saying about my being on the planning board.
I'm saying about the issue of setting a precedent.
Right.
For, we bend the law for you, we have to bend the law for everybody.
Okay, I understand that people don't want to see people just building structures on their undersized lots to rent out to short-term rentals. But, this was a pre-existing structure.
But then you
So-
changed the use.
Right.
So it's no longer valued as a pre-existing structure, it's now valued under the use you changed it to,
yeah.
according to the zoning
So I
laws.
could have continued using it as an office or a studio without changing the use.
Yeah,
That structure wasn't a pre-existing non-conforming structure, that structure never predated our code.
No,
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 there was
but
no
there was a
pre-existing.
certificate of occupancy for it.
It may have had a C of O, it shouldn't have, it should have had a C of C if it was a studio. Maybe it had heat, but it certainly wouldn't have had plumbing.
the code was May 17th, 1976. That's going way back.
Right.
Not
I
that
think
far.
the original house was built then.
I think it's not that far.
To us.
I have a question. I'm a little confused, because
So am I.
partway through her conversation, what she was telling us, she said she did it so her daughter would have some place to stay when she came home. So is it for a family member, or is it for an STR? I'm a little
It
confused,
was,
because
that's the reason,
What?
okay, that's the reason that when you said, what is it that you're actually looking to do?
Right, right.
That's what I said, I was looking to have a place for my daughter to move back home and live there. Because she and her boyfriend had a house together and they were breaking up, and she lived in Seattle.
Okay.
And I was in a hurry to get something ready for her because there's only 1 bedroom in my main house.
Right.
And that was the reason that I did it.
We would love
I had
to-
no intention to do an STR.
We would love to be able to enable, but that's irrelevant to the situation.
Right.
Whether she rents it to a family member or,
She's here because an SDR violation sent her.
I'm here because Howie pointed it out that I didn't have a certificate of compliance. That's why I originally came in front of the zoning
No,
board.
I think
Yeah,
Howie pointed out the fact that you had 2 dwellings
right,
on an
right.
undersized lot.
That's what I'm saying. But at that point, the STR wasn't an issue at that point.
Well, it's not an
There
STR
wasn't.
issue, we're not even.
it wasn't even, didn't even exist then,
Well,
so. Okay, so we have approved the distance between the 2 structures. We have disallowed the area variance. I was looking at as use variance of the,
Second
of
dwelling.
the second variance application.
Yeah.
Which, and I'm still confused about what that distance was. We don't have that data here.
we don't have a survey, we don't have,
There's no dimensions on it.
We have a drawing,
yeah, that's,
so. All right, I think that concludes our business. That's as far as we can take it. Any other comments? any other questions for Vivian? Vivian, do you have any other questions for us?
Well, I think, this is a discussion that the community is ongoing having, is whether we need more dwelling units, basically, because of the housing shortage. Now, STR aside, because I know that the temptation to put an STR in a dwelling unit is
Mhm.
very high, but there doesn't seem to be any way, to me, to increase the number of housing units without running into that issue, is how many units are allowed on a property. And I'm actually thinking at some point we're going to need to change the zoning to accommodate more density, because there is just not that much buildable space. in
Yeah, but you're
Shandaken.
talking about short-term
I
rental.
think aside from the short-term rental issue.
Well, yeah,
Hey,
but
Kevin,
it's-
do you have anything to say about that?
I mean,
I was just gonna say, I don't really see the correlation. I think there's plenty of housing, but people are misusing it.
yeah.
Well, there is an acute shortage of long-term affordable rental.
Oh, I don't disagree that we need affordable housing, but I don't think government subsidized housing is what's gonna fix our issue in this community.
Well,
We already have,
yeah.
let me finish, we already have 76% of our total stock in the town of Shandaken is owned by the city. We're forced down into the valleys, there's not a lot of developable plots.
76% is owned by the city? Is that the figure? No.
State-
Talking about
New York
state-
State and city.
And city.
Yeah, I've heard that figure is 85%, frankly.
It's the last time anybody did the actual math, it was 84 or something like
It's
that. But the
large.
state has consumed more, or has purchased, more properties since then, so it's higher.
Yeah.
But
And
to
by,
answer your question, I can tell you from recent discussions that have been going on with the town board that there are not a lot of properties that can be developed, one for affordable housing, or two, for instance, a relocation of town hall. We don't have these kind of properties, so unless people want to invest in affordable housing, and we can't force people to do that. That's why we have
Yeah.
SDR regulations, because that's the direction the town was going, is that all of our usable housing stock is either being sold at 3 times over value or being turned into SDR, which is fine, that is an owner's prerogative. But I don't think that there is a correlation, and I think that's, to be blunt, I think it's caught up.
Well, what I was saying is that, not that somebody, an outside developer should come in and build apartments necessarily, but a homeowner that wants to have a family member move into the property
Right.
and build, or improve or build an accessory dwelling, and there's some zoning regulation that makes it impossible. There may be enough situations like that where it could improve the housing situation. And I just think that we're gonna look at it as a community in the future.
Oh, we may.
A lot of communities are changing their accessory dwelling units.
There was just an
Zoning.
there was just an applicant in front of the planning board just the other night that wanted to build seven townhouses
Yeah, I remember
for
that.
affordable housing. You guys turned it down.
That wasn't for affordable housing.
Long
That
term.
applicant does not want to build affordable housing, that is not the case.
no, that was a high-end cluster development, I think.
Where was
Yes,
that?
looking moving
Where'd
forward.
they want to put it?
Isn't it-
Again.
Where?
Where was the location for that development? That cluster?
Did you know Mr. Setchko?
Yeah, the White House on 28,
Yeah, that house, that property right next to it, the vacant piece next to it.
Jerry Setsko.
Yeah, around 28. Was that, I think that was a blue house, just down
They
there.
just painted it red, I think.
Oh, did they?
Oh, that one there, yeah, yeah.
I can't keep up
I
with
know
this stuff.
what you mean.
Yeah. Okay.
I just, again, to comments, like to remind everybody, we do live in the Catskill Park. We do love work living here. And part of the reason we love living here is because of the environment.
Absolutely.
We are stewards of this environment. Yeah, there may be times when we look at things, we say we have to do this. It may harm, may do a little bit of damage, but for the infrastructure, for the community, you have to move forward, you have to move out. In a case like this with housing, do we really want to double our density? Do we want to do that to our mountains? Do we want to have that kind of traffic and everything? I mean, the ramifications of what goes on here is what, and especially to make the argument on an undersized lot, in a deep development pocket. I think our forefathers, if you will, Jay Grimm Senior and all those that wrote the code, I think they envisioned, they wanted to see spaciousness. They didn't want fences, that's why they have to get a variance for a certain fence size. It's all these things, they wanted people to live here and enjoy the environment. So adding more housing is not, or doubling essentially doubling the housing stock of Shandaken is not the answer for us. I don't believe it is.
Yeah, well, you may be hyperbolic, we're probably not doubling, but the point is well taken. It'll change the demographics, change the population, change demographic density. Yeah, and I totally agree about the stewardship of this land. This issue about the ownership of the Catskill State Forest and the New York City watershed is a double-edged sword. The whole reason I bought my property is because it abuts state land. I know nobody's gonna build next to me. So, you know, I think Rob's point is well taken. We are the ultimate stewards of this land. And the reason we live here is because we feel this land is so precious to us.
That's why I moved here.
So, there you go.
I mean, that's one reason I bought my property too, because I bought state land. But what I've noticed is, my next door neighbor, who doesn't have the rental, it's just him, he had subdivided the property, there were two houses on that lot. He has an 8-acre lot, but his actual usable space is the same as mine, because the 8 acres is up the mountain.
Right.
So he technically could build an accessory dwelling on his lot, but it would look exactly the same as mine. Because that, like you said, the cluster of houses, you know exactly where it is.
Yeah.
There'd be one more structure, but it's still a cluster of houses, doesn't change anything about the wild area. It's not adding to the visual impact.
I don't think that's the point, though. You have to take the whole overall, idea that this is what it is. Yeah, if somebody wants to build 3 houses and they have 8 acres, I guess they can do that. But,
Yes, they can.
that's not,
That's what I'm saying, it's misleading, because their 8 acres are unbuildable.
no, I know.
Yeah,
But
That's irrelevant
that
to
was
your
his
case.
choice.
What happens in somebody else's lot is irrelevant to this case. We're
but
dealing
I'm
with
just
real-
saying, I'm addressing what the visual impact is
Right, right.
of increasing density in certain areas. Now,
Right.
obviously, we don't want to extend that cluster indefinitely, because then you have houses all over
She was
the
doing
road.
similarity.
But I
Yeah.
think there's a place where you could fit a house, a small house here, a small house there, and they wouldn't really add to the impact, and would add to the housing stock. That's the point I'm making. I think we do need to address allowing some things for that purpose that weren't allowed before.
Kevin,
Because
what-
other communities are doing that.
Yeah, I
And
know,
they're
no, this-
finding it
this-
necessary.
This affordable housing issue,
Yeah.
especially long-term, it's not just related to our community, it's
Mhm.
all over the Catskills, so these other jurisdictions are trying to deal with this too. Kevin, what do you have to say?
No, it's, not that I think we need to go on all night talking about this, but according to the most recent census, population has dropped. So it's like the housing crisis gets bigger, but the amount of full-time residents continues to drop.
Because of the short-term
So,
rental
something-
explosion. Yeah. So if changing demographics, changing economy, changing land use, yeah, it has to be managed, it has to be adjudicated. And you kind of become a test case for some of these issues. I mean, we would love to make you whole, but I think some of these bigger issues preclude me agreeing to that second variance. Any other questions, any other comments? May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Don't you want to approve last month's meeting minutes first?
Oh.
Then you can adjourn it.
Oh, I thought we should have done that earlier. Yeah. Does anybody have any amendments to the last month's minutes?
No.
No. May I have a motion to approve last month's minutes?
Second.
I'm going to abstain, I
second.
wasn't here. so.
We still have a quorum, all in favor? Is it- Yep, aye. Or that doesn't need a roll call, does it? No. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, minutes of the last meeting approved. Any other business? Any other comments? Nope. Thank you, folks. I mean, this has been a sticky wicket. I hope we navigated this appropriately.
Don't leave, motion closed, don't let them go.
Motion to, no, so, motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second?
Second motion.
All in favor? Aye. See ya. Thanks for coming.
See you next month.
I think we did that right.
I think so. The more I think about it, the more, and that's a great point. I didn't really agree with
I have a quarter acre. I understand it's not property sheets. I mean, that would be within it.
Hey, Grace, before you leave, let me ask you a question. Is there something we should be doing with the old code books?
I believe Joyce wanted them back, or maybe she didn't. I called Joyce and asked her what you meant to do with those.
All right.
She said,
I could use
she
it for,
told me do it, use it.
Oh, go ahead, then there you
no,
go.
so I use them for
Do
Girl
it the way
Scouts.
you want.
You're getting, a bunch of feedback on one of these ones, I don't know which one. There's a bunch